Okay, now that your case is completely wrapped, it's time to do the finish work. So we're going to start by trimming around those areas around the latches and the hinges. But first, your kit came with a small scrap piece of vinyl. And what I included that for was so that you could practice cutting without cutting through your case. So all the pressure that you need to cut through this material is very light. You don't want to cut through the backing. You just want to be able to cut through the film itself, just like that, leaving the backing intact. So you're going to try that a few times until you get it down, because if you cut too hard, you cut through the backing like that, you're going to end up cutting through the Tolex on your case, and it's going to peel off, and then you're going to hate me for it. So again, try your pressure. Remember, you don't need a whole lot of pressure. All you're doing is cutting through the vinyl and not your case. Cut through the vinyl and not your case. I like to use a hobby knife for this part because I have more control over the angle of the knife using a rounded handle. All you need to do is follow the lines that you created with your squeegee, and you're just going to cut through the film itself. Remember not to cut through the case. You don't want to damage the Tolex. When we go to do the ABS cases, that's going to be a little different. You can use a lot of pressure on those because you're not going to cut through ABS. But Tolex is just like vinyl. You'll end up removing that with your knife. And like I said before, the tape doesn't allow your vinyl to stick to it, so it comes off nice and clean, just like that. We're going to open that up and remove your tape. I taped this up 2 days ago, so tape's kind of sticking. Once you finish removing the tape, good thing to do is go around the hinge along your cut and just give that an extra press down, just in case you might have had any area that lifted while you're removing the excess graphic film and the tape. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim through the top, around the edge, and then the inside. What I like to do is go from the center and work my way out. All right? So we're just going to hold the knife at an angle because we're not cutting directly straight down onto your Tolex. Because of the binding, we can go underneath the binding. So we're going to come in under the binding, just like that. Very light cut. When you get to the corner, again, I like to work from the center out. So I'm going to make this cut first. I'm going to follow the hardware, get that out from underneath. And I'm going to come back and do the same thing around the corner. So that's where I started before, so I'm going to start there again and just ever so slightly bend around that corner until I meet up with the graphic that I already did. Okay, now that you've made all your cuts, it's time to remove the graphic that doesn't exist on your wrap. What I like to do is keep these pieces, because I'll show you what we're going to use them for. You get that all off. And you're going to repeat this step for both sides. I'm going to just show you now. We're going to take our hard edge of our squeegee and we're going to tuck that graphic in underneath that edge, just so it doesn't lift. Now these binding edges are just glued in place, so you want to make sure to push that edge back down if you ended up lifting it up. Now for your scrap material that you have and all the excess, what I like to do with it is put it around the underside of the latches and hinges, so you don't end up with this blank space from where you put the film in underneath the case. So you'll end up cutting little pieces off of these large extras and applying it over top these areas, just like I did here. And then that finishes off your case nicely. So next thing we're going to do is trim this off. You're going to trim that right to the edge of the Tolex. Remember, you don't need a whole lot of pressure. Your knife should do all the work. Give it a push down with your thumb after you've trimmed it off, just in case you ended up lifting it a bit when you were cutting. And then your case is finished. Now you have a completely wrapped side of the case. Continue that step on the back side and you're done.